There comes a moment in life when silence speaks louder than words, when two people who once couldn't go a day without talking suddenly stop reaching out, and in that silence, something powerful begins to unfold. When you both stop contacting each other, it doesn't mean the story is over. It means the real game has just begun. This is the phase where emotions settle, clarity rises, and your true strength is tested. Most people panic in this space, checking their phones every few minutes, replaying memories, overthinking every detail. But the ones who truly grow, the ones who win in life, are those who use this silence as fuel for transformation. Silence feels uncomfortable at first, especially when you are used to constant communication, daily messages, and that familiar presence in your routine. The sudden absence can create a void that tempts you to reach out, to break the silence just to feel connected again. But this is exactly where your growth begins, in that uncomfortable space where you resist the urge to chase and instead turn inward. You begin to realize that the energy you were giving to someone else can now be redirected toward yourself, and that shift is powerful beyond measure. Instead of waking up and checking your phone for their message, you start your day with purpose. You choose to move your body, even if it's just a light walk around your neighborhood or gentle stretching in your room. These small actions may seem insignificant, but they are signals to your mind that you are choosing control over chaos. Your body begins to respond with increased energy, your mind becomes clearer, and slowly, that heavy emotional weight starts to lift. You're no longer reacting to the silence. You're using it as a foundation to rebuild your strength. As the days go by, you begin to notice how much of your emotional state was tied to external validation. Without constant communication, you're forced to face your own thoughts, your own habits, and your own patterns. This is not easy, but it is necessary. You start asking yourself deeper questions. What do I really want? What kind of life do I want to live? What kind of person do I want to become? And instead of waiting for someone else to give you answers, you begin to create them yourself. Your relationship with food also begins to change during this time. Instead of emotional eating or neglecting your health, you become more mindful of what you consume. You start choosing foods that give you energy rather than drain it. Fresh fruits, balanced meals, and proper hydration become part of your daily routine. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. When your body feels nourished, your mind becomes more stable, and that emotional roller coaster begins to slow down. There's also a shift in how you spend your time. Moments that were once filled with texting or waiting are now open for growth. You might pick up a new hobby, read something inspiring, or simply sit in silence and reflect. You begin to enjoy your own company, and that is one of the most underrated forms of confidence. When you can be alone without feeling lonely, you reach a level of emotional independence that many people never experience. The silence also teaches you discipline. Every time you feel the urge to reach out and you choose not to, you are strengthening your self-control. You are proving to yourself that you are not driven by impulse but by intention. This builds a quiet confidence within you, the kind that doesn't need validation or attention. It's steady, it's grounded, and it's real. At some point, the silence stops feeling like rejection and starts feeling like freedom. You're no longer tied to expectations, no longer overanalyzing messages, no longer waiting for someone else to make you feel complete. You begin to understand that your peace is your responsibility, and you start protecting it at all costs. You become more selective with your energy, more aware of your boundaries, and more focused on your own growth. This is where your mindset truly transforms. You stop seeing silence as something negative and start seeing it as a gift, a chance to reset, to refocus, and to reconnect with yourself. You begin to appreciate the calm, the clarity, and the space to grow without distractions. And in that space, you discover a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more self-aware than ever before. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth to anyone because you have already proven it to yourself through your actions, your discipline, and your ability to stand strong even when it would have been easier to give in. There is a quiet transformation that begins the moment you stop seeking validation from someone who is no longer present in your life. At first, it feels unfamiliar, almost like you've lost something important, but as time passes, you begin to understand that what you've actually gained is far more valuable. You gain space, you gain clarity, and most importantly, you gain yourself. This is where the real shift happens, when your focus moves from external approval to internal alignment, and everything about your energy begins to change. You start noticing how much of your mood used to depend on someone else's attention. A message could make your day, and silence could break it. But now, without that constant emotional fluctuation, you begin to stabilize. You wake up with a sense of control, knowing that your peace is no longer in someone else's hands. This realization is empowering, especially as you grow older and begin to value emotional stability over temporary excitement. You're not looking for highs and lows anymore. You're looking for balance, for calm, for something that lasts. With this new awareness, your daily habits begin to evolve. You start creating a routine that supports your well-being instead of draining it. Maybe you begin your mornings with light exercise, a short walk, or simple stretching. These small movements are not about physical transformation alone, they are about mental strength. They remind you that you are capable of taking care of yourself, that you don't need someone else to motivate you to move forward. Your body feels lighter, your mind becomes clearer, and that sense of heaviness you once carried slowly fades away. Your relationship with food also becomes more intentional. Instead of eating based on emotion, you start eating with purpose. You choose meals that nourish your body, that give you energy, and that support your overall health. This shift might seem small, but it has a powerful impact on your mindset. When your body is well nourished, your thoughts become more positive, your focus improves, and your emotional resilience grows stronger. You begin to understand that self-care is not just about what you feel, but also about what you do consistently every single day. As the silence continues, you find yourself spending more time reflecting rather than reacting. You begin to see things more clearly without the influence of constant communication or emotional dependency. You recognize patterns, both in yourself and in others. You understand what you tolerated, what you ignored, and what you truly deserve. This level of self-awareness is something that can only come from stepping back and giving yourself the space to think, to feel, and to grow without interruption. Your lifestyle starts to align with this new version of you. You become more selective with your time and energy. You start saying no to things that don't serve you, and yes to things that bring you peace and fulfillment. Whether it's spending time with supportive people, engaging in meaningful activities, or simply enjoying quiet moments alone, everything you do begins to reflect your self-respect. You're no longer chasing attention, you're attracting alignment. There is also a noticeable shift in your confidence. It's not loud or attention-seeking, but calm and grounded. You carry yourself differently because you know that your worth is not dependent on anyone else's recognition. This kind of confidence is deeply attractive not just to others, but to yourself. You feel more secure, more centered, and more in control of your emotions. You're no longer easily shaken by silence or distance because you have built a strong foundation within yourself. Over time, you realize that this phase was never about losing someone. It was about finding yourself. It was about breaking free from patterns that kept you stuck and stepping into a version of yourself that is stronger, healthier, and more aware. You begin to appreciate the silence, not as something empty, but as something full of opportunity. It gave you the chance to reset your priorities, to rebuild your habits, and to reconnect with what truly matters in your life. And as you continue to grow, you understand that the real power was never in holding on to someone else, but in learning how to stand strong on your own, with a clear mind, a healthy body, and a peaceful heart. At some point in this journey, something deeper begins to shift inside you, something that goes beyond just staying silent or focusing on yourself. It's the realization that emotional independence is not just a concept, but a way of living. You begin to understand that your happiness, your peace, and your sense of worth are not meant to be controlled by another person's presence or absence. This understanding doesn't come overnight, but once it starts to settle in, it changes the way you see everything. You stop reacting to every thought that tells you to reach out, to check up on them, or to break the silence just to feel something again. Instead, you observe those thoughts without letting them control you. This is where real strength is built, not in moments of comfort, but in moments of restraint. Every time you choose not to act on impulse, you are reinforcing your self-discipline, and over time, that discipline turns into confidence that feels unshakable. You also begin to notice how much lighter your mind feels without constant emotional noise. There's no overanalyzing messages, no waiting for replies, no second-guessing intentions. That mental space becomes available for something much more valuable: growth. You start investing your energy into things that actually improve your life. Maybe you pick up a book that challenges your thinking, or you learn something new that expands your perspective. You become more curious, more engaged with your own development, and less concerned with what someone else is doing. Your physical well-being becomes a natural part of this transformation. You don't force yourself into extreme routines, but you stay consistent with simple, healthy habits. A daily walk, a bit of stretching, or light exercise becomes something you look forward to rather than something you avoid. These moments are not just about staying fit. They are moments where you reconnect with yourself, where you clear your mind, and where you remind yourself that you are capable of progress, even in small steps. Your eating habits also reflect this new level of awareness. You become more mindful of how different foods affect your body and your mood. You start choosing meals that give you steady energy instead of quick satisfaction followed by a crash. This consistency in taking care of your body strengthens your emotional resilience. You feel more balanced, more focused, and more in control of how you respond to situations. There's also a shift in how you view time. Before, so much of your time may have been spent thinking about someone else, waiting, or trying to maintain a connection. Now that time is yours again, and you begin to use it differently. You invest it in activities that bring you genuine fulfillment, whether it's spending time with people who appreciate you, exploring interests you once ignored, or simply enjoying moments of peace without feeling the need to fill them with distractions. As this independence grows, your standards naturally rise. You become less willing to accept inconsistency, mixed signals, or anything that disturbs your peace. It's not because you've become distant or cold, but because you've experienced what it feels like to be grounded and secure within yourself, and you're not willing to trade that for temporary emotions. This is a level of maturity that comes from experience, especially as you move forward in life and begin to prioritize quality over quantity in every aspect. You also develop a deeper sense of patience. You no longer feel rushed to fix things, to reconnect, or to force outcomes. You understand that what is meant for you will not require you to lose yourself in the process. This patience allows you to move with intention rather than urgency, making decisions that are aligned with your long-term well-being instead of short-term emotions. The silence that once felt heavy now feels peaceful. It becomes a space where you can think clearly, act wisely, and grow steadily. You begin to trust yourself more, trust your decisions, and trust your ability to handle whatever comes next. This trust is one of the most powerful things you can build because it removes the need for constant reassurance from others. And in this state, you are no longer waiting for something to happen. You are no longer defined by someone else's actions. You are simply moving forward, grounded, focused, and fully in control of your own life. There comes a stage where everything you've been practicing, silence, discipline, self-care, and emotional control, starts to come together in a powerful way. This is where you no longer feel like you're trying to heal or trying to move on. Instead, you feel stable, grounded, and deeply connected to yourself. The situation that once felt confusing or painful now feels like a turning point, something that pushed you toward becoming a stronger and more aware version of yourself. You begin to carry a different kind of energy, one that doesn't seek attention but naturally attracts respect. It shows in the way you walk, the way you speak, and the way you respond to situations. You're no longer easily triggered or emotionally reactive. You've trained your mind to pause, to think, and to respond with clarity rather than impulse. This level of control is rare, and it comes from the work you've been doing in silence. The moments when no one was watching but you still chose growth over comfort. Your daily routine reflects this transformation. You wake up with a sense of direction, not because everything in your life is perfect, but because you've learned how to create structure and meaning in your day. You continue with light physical activity, whether it's walking, stretching, or simple exercises that keep your body active and your mind clear. These habits are no longer something you force yourself to do. They have become part of who you are. Your body feels stronger, your posture improves, and even your breathing feels more relaxed and controlled. Your approach to food remains intentional. You don't follow extreme diets or punish yourself for occasional indulgences, but you stay consistent with choices that support your well-being. You understand that your body is your foundation, and taking care of it is not optional. It's a form of self-respect. When you nourish yourself properly, you think more clearly, you feel more stable, and you handle stress with greater ease. This consistency creates a sense of balance that reflects in every area of your life. Mentally, you operate from a place of abundance rather than lack. You're no longer focused on what you lost or what didn't work out. Instead, you focus on what you're building, what you're learning, and how you're evolving. You've trained your mind to look for growth in every situation, to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. This mindset doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you unstoppable in the long run because you're no longer afraid of change or uncertainty. Your lifestyle becomes more refined and intentional. You surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and support your growth. You distance yourself from negativity, drama, and anything that disrupts your peace. You become more selective, not out of arrogance, but out of self-awareness. You know what you bring to the table, and you're not willing to settle for less than what aligns with your values and your vision for your life. There's also a quiet confidence in how you handle the past. You don't feel the need to revisit it, to explain it, or to fix it. You've accepted it for what it was, learned from it, and moved forward. If that person ever reappears, you're no longer the same version of yourself they once knew. You're calmer, stronger, and more self-assured. You don't react out of emotion. You respond based on your standards. And if they don't come back, it doesn't disturb your peace because your happiness is no longer tied to their presence. You also begin to inspire others without even trying. People notice the change in you, the way you carry yourself, the way you handle situations, and the way you prioritize your well-being. Your actions become an example of what it means to grow through challenges rather than be defined by them. This influence is not loud or forced. It's natural and genuine, and it comes from the consistency of your habits and the strength of your mindset. The silence that once felt like an ending now feels like the beginning of something much greater. It gave you the space to rebuild, to redefine yourself, and to step into a version of your life that is healthier, more balanced, and more fulfilling. You're no longer chasing, no longer waiting, and no longer questioning your worth. You are simply living with clarity, discipline, and a deep sense of inner peace that comes from knowing you chose yourself when it mattered the most. There is a final stage in this journey where everything becomes clear, where the silence, the distance, and the time apart reveal their true purpose. You begin to understand that this was never just about another person. It was about your evolution. It was about breaking patterns, rebuilding your habits, and stepping into a version of yourself that is no longer dependent on external validation. At this point, you don't feel like you're missing anything, because you filled your own life with meaning, structure, and purpose. You wake up each day with a sense of calm that once felt impossible. There is no urge to check your phone for someone's message, no need to revisit old conversations, no desire to go back to what once was. Instead, your focus is on the present moment and how you can make the most of it. You continue your routine of light movement, whether it's walking in the morning sun, stretching your body, or simply staying active throughout the day. These habits have become second nature, not because you force them, but because you experience the peace and clarity they bring into your life. Your relationship with food reflects the same level of awareness. You no longer eat to escape emotions or fill a void. You eat to nourish, to energize, and to support your overall well-being. You understand that your body and mind are connected, and taking care of one directly impacts the other. This consistency in your diet keeps your energy stable, your mood balanced, and your thoughts clear. It becomes easier to stay positive when your body feels good, and that positivity starts to influence every decision you make. Mentally, you have reached a level of strength where you no longer take things personally. You understand that people act based on their own experiences, their own limitations, and their own mindset. This awareness frees you from unnecessary emotional burden. You stop overanalyzing why things happened the way they did, and instead, you accept them as part of your journey. This acceptance doesn't mean you forget or ignore the past, but it means you no longer let it control your present. Your lifestyle now reflects a deep sense of alignment. You choose environments that support your growth, relationships that respect your boundaries, and activities that bring genuine fulfillment. You no longer feel the need to impress anyone or prove your worth. You've already done that through your discipline, your consistency, and your ability to grow through challenges. This creates a quiet confidence that is felt in everything you do, from the way you speak to the way you carry yourself. You also develop a strong sense of gratitude. Instead of focusing on what didn't work out, you appreciate what the experience taught you. You're grateful for the lessons, the growth, and the strength you gained along the way. This shift in perspective allows you to move forward without bitterness or regret. You carry wisdom instead of pain, and that makes a significant difference in how you approach future situations. As time goes on, you begin to see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. You become more open to new experiences, new connections, and new possibilities. But this time, you approach them from a place of strength rather than need. You don't rush into anything, and you don't lower your standards. You've built a life that feels stable and fulfilling, and anything that enters your life now has to align with that foundation. There is also a sense of freedom that comes with this stage. You're no longer tied to past emotions or old patterns. You have the ability to move forward with clarity and confidence, knowing that you can handle whatever comes your way. This freedom is not just external, but internal. It's the freedom from overthinking, from self-doubt, and from the need for constant reassurance. And in this state, you realize that the real victory was never about whether someone comes back or not. The real victory was becoming someone who no longer needs them to feel complete. You've created a life where your happiness is self-generated, where your peace is protected, and where your growth is continuous. You stand in a place where you are not waiting, not chasing, and not looking back, but simply moving forward with strength, purpose, and a deep understanding that choosing yourself was the best decision you ever made.